I'm Mark Thompson, and this is the Chief Executive Summit. We're so delighted to be talking with Ram Charan today, who's truly a legend as a CEO whisperer. I don't think there's been anyone who's been more influenced at the top of the house than by Ram's capacity to be able to cut through the clutter and the complexity and the confusion of being a chief executive and providing the kind of insights that we all so deeply need. So Ram, thank you so much for being a part of the CEO Academy and for taking some time with us today.
I'm honored to be on it. I'm a participant in it from its very original days. It's fantastic with your leadership to take it forward.
Well, thank you. I mean, a couple of decades of doing this kind of work, and you've presided over a time where there's been such remarkable change. There perhaps has been more change in the chief executive's office and maybe even the distinctions that were set in motion by a board of directors, probably more in the last 20 years than we've seen in a very, very long time. Could you talk about what you feel when you look at the challenges of being a board leader today in terms of the governance function? We've seen boards transform. We've seen many new players come into the seat. There's a greater representation on boards today. What are some of the lessons that you're reflecting on that you would coach a new board member as she or he steps into the governance role?
So first, we should consider creating board population in two categories. One is publicly held.
Yes.
And second, privately held.
Yes.
The privately held often is owned by the private equity people.
Yes.
Many of them have 100 companies or more.
Yes.
They do have governance. And they are entirely different from the ones that are publicly listed.
Yes.
So we must make a distinction.
Yes.
But there's a third one that is family owned or family run. In Asia, 70% of the corporations, even though they are publicly listed, they are family run. It's a different, we have that in America also.
Yes.
That they are publicly listed, but they are run by the families. And so my point is that we should create segmentation of the boards. And these are three major segmentation.
They are. And when you think about what they're facing with uncertainty being magnified and a greater threat to existing or traditional structures or business models, what is the way you feel that a new board member, if you stepped into this role, should be thinking about that responsibility?
So we have to go through each segment.
Yes.
Because they are entirely different.
Of course.
So if you're referring to publicly listed companies and run by professionals and professional board, not by family and not by private equity, then here are a few things to think about.
Excellent.
That these boards' composition by stakeholders is being compelled to become more diversified.
Yes.
So you have people, not just diversity in gender, which is, I think, is healthy, it's diversity of interests.
Yes.
Diversity of risk-taking. Diversity of the scope of thinking. Risk-taking and thinking. That combination can be good, or that combination can be negative. If you have a very vocal, influential director who is not a business person, who's not able to have the bigger scope to take the risk to invest today to build the tomorrow, that person becomes very difficult in the boardroom.
Yes.
So one job here is how to synchronize the board members' thinking from this diversity that creates advantage for the corporation against others. It's an extremely difficult task.
It is. What a profound statement, too, because we want that diverse thinking and yet we're also creating even more chaos and complexity.
So the CEO actually bears the brunt.
Yes.
Because the boards cannot run a company. They have no choice. They have to make their influence or orders through the CEO, or they
Yes.
fire the CEO.
Right.
But they can't run it. It's not in their interest. They don't have the competence. No 12 people can run a company without a strong leader. And nobody is full-time on that board or ever run, in many cases, a big company.
Yes.
So you see all these things you take today, the Starbucks case. It's a very difficult case. It has all kinds of external uncertainties. It has had a horrible year.
Mhm.
It has a new CEO. It's a consumer company. It's a reputation. A few years ago, the founder announced that they will build one Starbucks store every 9 hours in China. The succeeding one said they will have 6,000 stores in the near future. Well, conditions are changing fast.
Yes.
So if you're talking about public board, I want to make a very clear statement. The boss of a public board is not the investor. It is the activist shareholders.
Mm. Yes.
They evaluate every company. They find the gap where they can enter. They drive it. Almost always they get collaboration with the investors to unseat, to make the board change. Exxon, 3 directors were unseated. A restaurant business here in America, all the board got fired. A railroad in Canada, all the board got fired. Activist shareholders, and there are zillions of them, they drive this. General Electric, activist shareholder, one of the jewels of the world, not just America. Obviously, GE got into trouble. So there are places where there are 2 shareholders, 2 activist shareholders. That is in Disney.
Mhm.
So people must come to terms that financial performance, the brand image, the compliance, ignorance. Activist shareholders are active, they pounce on it. You better pay attention to them, you listen to them. Investors collaborate with them, we know that. So if you are a board member, what should you do? If you are a CEO, what should you do? If you are a CFO, what should you do? If you are a CHRO, what should you do? If you're a general counsel, what should you do? That's your agenda.
Yes. Right.
We want to cover that in the program. We have faculty who have dealt with the shareholder values. I have. I've written 6 books on them.
Yes.
I've gone through 100 boards across the globe, not just America, China, Australia, Japan, Brazil, Dubai, UAE. No 2 boards are the same. Be able to compare the boards of private equity, compare
Powerful.
the boards of family owned. We
Excellent.
can have a very good session on it, but my mission in life, in my sessions, you always take a few takeaways that you can use Monday morning.
Makes sense. It's huge. And as you talk about this, and you mentioned Disney and Starbucks, for example, the other dimension that the board's getting involved with is the more rapid turnover of the chief executive. And the tendency for some charismatic leaders and some founders to have to step back in the seat many times, as we saw at Starbucks and we saw at Disney. That sense of succession planning or continuous development of a bench that can move the organization forward. What's your thinking about that right now,
Yeah,
and about
Mark,
particular examples?
Mark, there are as many frameworks as the succession planning.
Yes.
When you have 4 consecutive wrong CEOs,
Right.
or 3 consecutive wrong CEOs, Starbucks, Intel,
Yes.
in the old days, HP.
Right.
Or on the other hand, when you have a CEO for 20 years and not pick up the failing part of it,
Mm-hmm.
before you go for succession, you got to do with the existing ones.
Yes.
So we have had the issue in the last few weeks in Boeing, 3 consecutive wrong CEOs. Intel. Now you see Starbucks, and there are more. So the first part is to let me take you through the boards, how they monitor performance before it becomes acutely negative,
Yes.
and then what to do.
Excellent.
Firing is easy. Knowing the causes and helping the CEO is
Very
the
hard.
task of a board,
Yes.
until they come to the conclusion that there is no hope. So I have one case, a $10 billion company. I advised the company and the board both. So at one point in the executive session, it became clear that the existing CEO is a good person, but there is one area he has a handicap, and without doing something, this company stock price will decline in a material way. So the lead director wrote a note to each director, note written, and say, what is one thing the CEO needs to do in the next 12 months? He got the answers. He talked to each of them on the phone. He pulled that together in 200 words. He called me up because I go to the board meetings. He said, take that to the CEO. I took it to the CEO. He said, you're right. I have to have a drastic cost cuts. He went to work for it, did it. He was in the job another 7 years. Did very well. And then company merged with a company with double the price. That lead director is a big thing. Most of the boards don't have courageous, insightful, thoughtful lead directors.
It's a huge point. And it's one where it's in stark relief with whatever the chairman's role might be, as distinguished from the lead
chairman and
director.
outsider, but you need a lead director. So here, Dennis Carey and I, and Bill McNabb of Van Gogh wrote a book on this called Talent, Strategy, and Risk. And we say here, when you have 10, 12 people on the board, the lead director or the outside chairman often may not be the real leaders. These leaders may be 1 or 2 behind the scenes.
Right.
Everybody knows that. Find them, surface them, work with them, constructively pull the board together.
Right.
Most boards don't have the right information. They don't have external information. But we have a good example. I love Mary Barra and General Motors. It's in the book. She sends weekly, very, very to the point, external, internal, competitive, technology, whatever, 2-page report to all the board members every 2 weeks. So they know what's happening. It is succinct. I've not seen it, but I believe it. And the board members are then very, very much eager to give their viewpoints.
Yes.
If you have 12 board members, they have at least 120 more networks.
Yes.
And General Motors is doing well compared to others. So we can do that.
That makes a big difference. When you think about the fact that we've had to have a Starbucks and Disney example of CEOs coming back into seat, what went wrong there?
Founder came back twice.
Yep.
Twice. So what was the board doing? And by the way, you should look at the composition of the board. Who are on the board? At
Right.
one point, it was a calibrated, a very, very competent CEO of Lego,
Yes.
CEO of Microsoft. In fact, one of the CEOs of Starbucks came from Microsoft. And Howard came back. So before you go for succession, you got to deal with the issues right in here.
Mm-hmm.
And if the succession is bad, your selection will be bad. But they can't seem to monitor the existing ones, helping him succeed. Because when you change a CEO every 4 years, you're decimating the energy of the directive force.
Yes.
And the organization.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I wonder about that with Mike Eisner when he was choosing to be executive chairman when he stepped out of the CEO's seat, but he kept on having to step back in. And was that a lack of conviction that he was really wanting to give power away?
No, I think first people don't remember this. The job was offered to Frank Wells, who used to work with Eisner.
Right.
And Frank said, no, make Eisner the CEO. I will be number 2 man.
Right.
That is how that got developed.
Right.
Frank Wells died in a helicopter crash.
Right.
Eisner never recovered after that.
Mm.
He tried to get number 2 guys. 2 of them, they never worked out. Then he bought ABC Capital, ABC. And then came Bob Iger. He ran the division, and I believe rightly he earned to be the CEO. Did a fantastic job. Before he left for the first time, he made certain business errors for which he is now paying the penalty to shrink Disney.
Mm. So that's a strategy question there in terms of being able to make those.
No, but he didn't really have a good successor. He had one, he let him go. He got the second one. Second one inherited abnormal debt.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have $69 billion debt, you got to do something. And the revenues did not go that way. So in that year of July, the board did not know how much loss is incurred. In December, they found out it was $4 billion loss.
Right.
The board is asleep at the switch.
Mm-hmm.
There are great people on the board. Now, board is not asleep at the switch, to tell you the truth. They're not getting the information they need to have. They can command it. The lady who's the lead director is from P&G. She is fantastic executive from P&G.
Yes.
So I say, she could have been CEO. She's great. But then you have high-powered people on the board who's going to tell whom what to do. And the board dynamics doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
At one point, George Mitchell was the lead director. Know that he made the peace in Ireland. He was a master of pulling these things together. He understood.
Right.
Senator George Mitchell. So people need to learn these nuances. They never get published. We can share with that in the seminar, in the program, in the academy.
That would be fantastic. Those nuances make all the difference. In fact, as you're speaking, another nuance ends up being this very fragile place where the board and perhaps the CEO have chosen 2 or 3 on a short list to inherit that job. It might be 8 months out, it might be 18 or 24 months out in terms of a pipeline. And hence ensues either a competition or dynamics among three members of the C-suite, who then are often now postured or positioned in competition with maybe outside candidates that are often brought in. So I'll be walking in a board meeting after coaching top three candidates internally. Dennis will be walking out because he's already presented the best from world-class talent outside. What would be your advice for that tight team of recruits who are being considered?
I'm doing that, you know that I do it all my life doing that.
Yes.
And I do that
Right.
almost minimum once in 2 weeks across the globe.
Right.
First, I want you to know, no one is prepared in CEO job until you are in the saddle.
Yes.
I have now developed one doing it for a $15 billion company where the outgoing CEO can say, this person is ready.
Mm.
So I've developed the methodology of them to learn the nuances of being a CEO job.
Yes.
The key word is nuances.
Okay.
So that methodology is available. We can do that. And we see success in it. Now I come to your point. So today you have a succession candidate and you're ready to put him in the job in 2 years. Correct?
Yes.
Suppose he is qualified and you do. So you got to see he's got to manage his whole company for the next maximum 10 years.
Yes.
And at that time, he will be influential to select his successor.
Yes.
So you got to look at a 20-year time span. Can this person learn how to detect external change on that basis?
Mm-hmm.
Can this person, even though he may be wrong, and I repeat, even though he may be wrong, look into 10, 20 years out. First, on the factors that are very certain, nearly certain, and factors that are totally uncertain. Eliminate the word uncertainty. We know some factors are reasonably certain. Demography, population. We can see that. So we say, you look into the future, be wrong, but lay out your thinking. Cross-check with your peers. Look for opposite viewpoints. And then work backwards that if that were to come true, what would I do today?
Yes.
Can I put a very small amount of money and get a couple of people to experiment something, detect something, learn something, building networks on it? You can do for 3-4 scenarios like this. More importantly, that scenario is not for strategy building, it's for education, it's for knowledge. It's getting the whole team to see that future back, outside in. If this person doesn't have that habit, he will end up optimizing what you have. And if the world changed drastically, what you have may become less relevant. Number 2 quality, which is time old, and there are many of these CEOs making a big mistake.
Yes.
Selecting the right people in his team.
Yes.
I did not say building the team in the right team. I'm finding errors in selecting them. If you have errors in selecting them, you can't build a team.
Right.
So today in your team, some jobs are more important than others.
Yes.
If you don't have a digital guy who understands business and he cannot execute, you got a problem. I love Doug McMillon, Walmart.
Yes.
As you know, Mike Duke, my senses curtailed his career. Doug McMillon came in. He understood the power of digitization. Most people, what have they done? they've taken one of the three possible courses. One, take a project, do it yourself. Second, get a partnership with an Accenture, with a McKinsey, with the BCGs. A third, hire a team of 95 people and do a comprehensive job. We spend $2 billion, $3 billion a year. I love what Doug did. He bought a company.
Hmm.
That company has done all this for Amazon before. So he brought him in. He got his company for 3.2 billion, learned from it, made the changes. He got his own digital engine and is moving forward. You can begin to see the difference.
Mhm.
Doug made a big decision. He also changed the HR person. Guess from where he got it. This lady, Miss Morris, Donna Morris, came from Adobe. Adobe is almost a native digital company.
Yes.
That's leadership.
Right.
Different companies, different examples. So point is, you got to have a view where the world is going in your industry. Is this industry going to be swallowed among other industries? It will. Do you know how to dissect it? Do you have the mental, intellectual, analytical, perceptual cognition? Most board members have never selected a CEO. Think about that one.
Yeah.
So the headhunters carry the ball.
And many of them have never been one themselves.
It's correct. So I'm dealing with one right now. And in one of them, I'm saying, you've chosen the wrong one. And the answer was that we examined hundreds of those. He was the best. I said, that's not it. You may have missed in the hundreds because of certain criteria didn't get met. I have a company that has 120 companies. They have a process and a person. They select 10 CEOs a year, 90% success. It
Yes.
is not the old way of saying it. It's over.
Yeah.
We cannot repeat the old stuff and say, that is why it is difficult. No, because we have that. We have a proven record of last 10 years. I personally examined that. And that's proprietary for them. And that's why they create extraordinary value.
It's something that we've done at Virgin as well. There's 400 companies under the Virgin brand, and they're across many different consumer industries. So having a model.
Yeah, there is a book in my name, joint with Anish Bartlow, and that is Talent, Market Cap Multiplier. So we take it through how you do that. I do that. I select. I don't recruit. I give my opinion on CEO selection.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe I have a very good record.
Yes.
I have the CEO sitting, the founder sitting with me. I get him to show that. I actually showed the other day one that this candidate is not right for you. And I convinced the candidate in front of the founder that he should know that it's not good for him. And he accepts it.
Yeah.
That's with dignity. He said, yeah, I get it. I said, nothing wrong with you. This is not a good match for you for these reasons. No insult. And the guy goes very insightful. I tell him why this is not so.
When you think about the choice that you've made to play this role with organizations, you are a person who's in a different company, a different industry every day of the week. That diversity of experiences that you have. Could you talk a little bit about how you came to the conclusion that you'd choose this life? I know you've probably been asked this, but you were raised in a small town in a large family. You ended up coming to the U.S. to go to Harvard and become a popular professor and at Northwestern as well. Could you talk about the decision to be a person who spends every day of the week in service of the people?
Yeah. Mark, there was no plan, no goals. You see, I come from the Indian Sanskrit culture. I used to recite Sanskrit passages. And they teach you the concept of self-sacrifice and the inner peace of the soul. And I, as a child, had that. I can live on almost nothing. And I mean, I practice that. And so I come in here in the materialistic society, I want nothing. I wanted something I can do. And I got that as I went along. There are some bumps, yes. And then I got very popular at Harvard in teaching. I was the first Indian to do that. And then when I began to teach in the executive program, the calls began to come in and say, help us. Now, in the help, most people do consulting. I don't do that. I don't write reports. I solve the problem of the leaders. Often the way they define problem is not a correct definition. I help them define the problem.
A big part of it, maybe the biggest.
Once they see that, problem is half solved. Now the problem has zillion facets. That's where Jack Welch gave me my own insight. He said, you can take any complex CEO problem and really crystallize what has to be done, which I do.
Yeah.
That you will see in my writings, very succinct, right to the point.
Right.
So I'm not a consultant in the normal sense. And I will also tell, this is a problem I cannot solve. Nothing. But I can tell him whom to call.
Yes.
Who worked well. I was once a very important company, and I was sitting with the CEO. He said, this is my problem. I said, well, I know the CEO of a very, very large company. He said, would you connect me? I called it the CEO of the large company. He said, yeah, I will see any CEO anytime. Well, he went the next week and got his solution.
That's brilliant, and it has a huge impact. You can end up having such a huge impact. And I think about how you've translated those learnings and all those interactions with the development of all these books that you've written with so many different very powerful CEOs. You know, I'm thinking about going back. One of my favorite one of those is knowing Larry Bossidy 20 years ago, and your work on execution, probably the longest on New York Times bestseller list.
Absolutely. No, I'm totally writing totally new book on execution. In the age of ChatGPT, totally how you create market value in legacy companies.
Yes.
And so I started outlining it, putting the pieces together, and you will see it has no resemblance to the 2002 book.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And the thing is that we create execution for exponential growth, for speed, innovation, and entrepreneurship. The AI creates speed, AI creates innovation, and AI enables you to find the gaps in the outside market and reboot your entrepreneurial instincts for growth. So you will see that it's all AI as a support, and then how your decisions begin to change. And that's what that book was about decisions. So I will show all those and say, if you don't do it, somebody else will take it over.
Right. One of the things that I've seen that seems to make people feel a little better about artificial intelligence is to think about how every individual as well can think about having a lieutenant that's augmented intelligence. That
you right on. Right on. It will require change of habits, but it will increase your mental capacity exponentially. You remember, as a child, I'm in a shoe shop. I go to Australia, get a job. and they put me in operations research, my cognition goes unbelievably. I go to Harvard, I teach 500 cases. Cognition, absolutely in problem solving, goes zillion miles up.
Yeah, right.
Then these problem solving CEOs, every single problem expands your cognition. Now AI will.
Mhm. I've been working with Marshall Goldsmith on taking all of his books and ours and creating MarshallBot, and it's been breathtaking to see also how it brings in references to disciplines that we aren't expert in and provides that perspective.
Today, what is the value to an individual, executive individual, team manager individual, of daily information segregated from fake information?
Yes,
You don't need to read the books,
right,
not even the magazines.
right.
But do you devote time to sort out this flow of information? So I'm telling the CEOs, please, 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 other than your routine information, you must discipline every week 2 hours. You got a big enough guy to sort it out what is relevant. In 1 year, you have 100 hours. It's like a course in a university. Get a buddy, talk to them.
Mhm.
You don't need to wait a magazine coming out with 2 months later. You don't have to wait for a print edition. Today, the outside business information, social information is available within minutes, if not hours.
Yeah, almost in real time. Yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
and you can be anywhere. Global information.
Right. So powerful if you'll embrace it.
And so I say, you got to do this. You have to change your habit, and you must understand knowledge, if used properly, expands your cognition, your effectiveness.
I love that. There's been so many interesting times where I'll be talking with on Zoom. It makes it possible. I could be having a conversation like I am with you. I had the chairman of a Fortune 500 company on, and I said, yeah, I hope it's okay with you, but I'm also referencing my bot as I go. And he says,
Oh,
are
yeah.
you kidding? Damn it. I wish my doctor did that. I wish my architect did that.
Yeah,
I
you
wish
got it.
every professional upon which I'm overpaying for their limited cognition. I
You
want a
got it.
reference point. Check
You
your
see, my
work.
argument, Mark, is I'm not asking people to work harder.
Yeah.
You become knowledge experts.
Yes.
You need to learn how do you find it
Right.
instantly.
And curate that material as opposed to thinking you're omniscient, if we are a doctor or another expert. It's
Mark, when you have knowledge fresh,
yes.
your goalposts will change.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, it changes the game. And it's not linear. It ends up being exponential. This is very exciting. Well, this is one of the reasons why I was attracted to our partnership with the CEO Academy and thinking about the issues that are being faced by those who are coming into the seat, the challenges faced by the incumbent in seat, and then the existential crisis of the succession plan, if the board has the right sort of feedback and information flows that you're describing. When you think about the opportunity to build a business that's sustainable, you're talking about goalposts changing and change happening faster. I work with Jim Collins at Stanford on Built to Last, and then I wrote a sequel called Success Built to Last because I wanted to take the Built to Last principles and apply them to an individual that he was using with organizational structure. And it's horrifying to look back and see the Built to Last companies aren't built to last. How do you think about sustainable?
The goal is not sustainability of any company. It is durability.
Mm.
It can be measured. Second, what disrupts durability? Single item, external change. Nothing else.
Yes.
External change could be macro, global, competition, new technology. So then the third item, the ability of the people in power in the company to adapt to it, to take advantage of it,
Mhm.
or find a way to survive through it. These are three universal principles. There is nothing you need to do great quantitative research. That describes what has to be done.
Mhm. Yes.
They fail in detecting the external change. If they detect it, they don't have courage to kill the old one.
Right.
They may have a CEO who either doesn't detect it or doesn't have the courage to change, or simply incompetent. People in power, not just the CEO. It is the board in Intel, people in power. 4 consecutive wrong CEOs.
Right.
Starbucks. Starbucks is now going through a major external change. The younger generation has different ideas what socialization is. It's no longer a third social center. Office, home, and a Starbucks. It's changing.
Yes.
I have a lot of faith in this CEO. He will change. But that's my view. I know him. It's tough for him. It's tough for him. It'll be tough for him. I think he's going to be resilient enough, but depends what the board does. Encourage him or discourage him.
Right.
So all these wonderful things about sustainability, no. The shelf life of a company is determined by the external change.
Your durability.
And the people in power to do something about it, not to do something about it.
Mhm.
My shop of my father is still there. It's 100 years old.
Wow.
My nephew runs it. That means my father's grandson. The shoe shop I talk about is now 75 years.
Beautiful.
My brother's son runs it.
Mm.
There's not much change. Change is coming.
Yes.
Big change is coming in my town. See how they do. I'm out of it. So there are plenty of examples in Europe, 200-year-old companies, restaurants, small businesses.
Yeah.
Then we have Puig, P-U-I-G, where they just announce in the family that no family person will work in the company. They are rich, healthy company.
I think these values are transcendent and make a lot of sense. And we feel so blessed at the CEO Academy to have you as a part of our mentorship, our inspiration, our friendship. We really appreciate you being a colleague and partner for the distance, and we can't wait to have you in the Academy itself when we convene. Thank you for taking the time for this conversation today.
Anytime.